Welcome to Monetize Your Business podcast conversations in partnership with FNB. My name is Hetty the Entrepreneur, and I am your host for this podcast conversation. I'm very excited about today's conversation because we are having a conversation with a lady that is a communication expert, and we're going to delve into all the nitty-gritties of public speaking. But before we do that, you know how we do here. I always have my fabulous co-pilot with me, Papa Biz. How are you today?
I'm very good. Very good to be able to connect and with somebody who will also be able to let us know how best to be able to improve our communication.
Which is such a big thing for entrepreneurs, right? So I'm very, very excited about that. Today's guest is Bulelwa Ndaba. She is a communication strategist and a communication doula. We are going to get into the nitty-gritties of what that actually means. She is the go-to person if you are looking to elevate your communication as well as your public speaking skills. But let me not introduce her. Let me allow her to introduce herself. Bulelwa, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? How are you guys doing?
We're all good. Glad to have you here.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I am so excited because from a very young age, I've been obsessed with communication. I don't know what it is, but when I meet another person who is vibrating on the same wavelength, it just makes me so excited because we can get into those nitty-gritties.
Yeah.
So very, very excited about that. But before we get into those exciting conversations, let's learn a little bit more about who Bulelwa is, where you come from, just for those who may not know you, just to set a little bit of that scene. How would you describe who you are to us?
Awesome. So scene one.
Yes.
Scene one is Bulelwa Ndaba. I was born in Soweto by both my parents, lived with both my parents, as well as I'm the youngest of 4 siblings.
Okay.
Wow.
So I'm the baby in the clan, and went to an art school, very playful. I love play. There's so much power in play.
Wow, okay.
And what else? Born and bred in Joburg,
Okay.
so I wasn't born elsewhere and came to Joburg, but I was born in Joburg, and yeah, that's about much that I can tell you. And how the name communication doula came about is that I was actually present for my friends. She was giving birth,
Okay.
and I was there helping her breathe. I'm like, breathe,
wow.
friend, rubbing her back, and she's like, don't talk to me. I'm like, okay, it's okay. And just witnessing that, I was in the room. Okay, I don't know how many people have an opportunity to be in the room
That
when
is
life
very
is being
special.
given. It is spiritual. I feel like I saw God in that moment, or experienced God in that moment. And I thought, wow, what a precious moment.
Yes.
And then as I was driving home, I felt, I think this is what I do for people. I help them birth their speaking careers.
Oh, wow.
I love that.
And that's where communication doula came about.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that, because it's such a unique perspective that I've never heard of before. And I find that to be quite amazing.
As I mean, you're going to that, and something that you spoke about. So you grew up in a family of 4.
Yeah.
So what was the split? Were you all girls? How many boys?
3 girls, 1 boy.
Oh, wow.
So I'm 9 years away from the oldest.
Oh, wow.
And I'm 10 months away from the one above me. So we're very, very tight, yeah.
So that must have been quite something special. I'm not sure how you saw it, because, like, for instance, with me, I just thought it was normal. I grew up with my siblings. We were 3 with my parents, and that was just normal. Took everything for granted. And then I get to school, and I get to varsity.
Yeah.
And that's not the norm at all.
It isn't.
How did you experience it? Were you also like me, where for most of your life you were very ungrateful?
Probably. I don't know if I was ungrateful, but I did come to the realization that it seems like a privilege. It seems like a privilege growing up in a household where you've got both parents that are extremely present. My parents my late dad, I'm just left with my mom now, but they were very present. If I want to go to a party, they will drive me from Soweto to the north, because I used to school in the north. And I remember, I speak of my parents very highly. And I have a very good relationship with them. And I noticed that there would be people that would laugh at me, like, oh, here she goes again, talking about her parents. Here she goes again, talking about her family. And there was a moment there was a time where someone was like, don't you just want to stop? Like, you're an adult now. You know, you're in varsity. Stop talking about your parents. And there was a time where I did. I was just like, okay, I guess it's not cool to talk about the love that I have for my parents and the love that they have for me. And then at some point I was like, actually, no, this is not okay. It's not okay that we are in a society where there is fatherlessness. You know, it's not okay that there is a society where there's motherlessness as well. And not because they aren't there, but because they are so busy being both parents that they are stretched thin. And I reverted back to my ways to sort of speak about my parents.
Yeah.
And I think what it has done, I remember when my father did pass, people would say, oh my goodness, your relationship with your dad, I know I don't have one, but I lived vicariously through that.
Look at that.
And it brought some kind of healing to know that a father can be present and a mother can be present in the ways that that my parents both were. So I'm super grateful for them.
That actually reminds me of this saying we used to have back in the day. You wouldn't know. I used to be a youth pastor.
Okay.
Thank you. Back in the day. And,
What happened to those days?
we'll have a discussion. And one of the things that we teach is that sometimes you don't realize that, let's say as a Christian person, you may be the only Bible that somebody else may read.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, as we're growing up, we get pushed into certain types of characterizations and things, and it's almost like, as you're communicating, is that you are being asked to dim your light.
Yeah.
And there's a point where we lose ourselves a bit because now we acquiesce to this.
Yeah.
But then at some point we find ourselves again and realize, but that's not who I am, and I've got to live in terms of, you know, who I am. So it's actually good to hear that, because I've had similar experiences as well.
Yeah. It's cool that you mentioned the Bible, because I love me, my Jesus. And that scripture that says that honor your mother and father, and that is the commandment with the first promise.
Yes.
And I guess the entire time I was honoring them, you know, not by doing things for them. I mean, there's nothing that kids can do for their parents that will show them how much they love, but honoring is just like honoring. It's taking treasure in who they are and the roles that they play in your life.
Yes.
So, yeah. And we do dim our lights when the world becomes the world, or we get thrown into the world, but we have to swim back. Yeah.
As a person that helps other people to find their voice, how, as the last born in a household with other siblings, growing up in Soweto with both of your parents, did you find your own voice? Was it something that you always had growing up, or was it something that had to be nurtured over time?
I think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
I am the most extroverted out of my family.
Oh, really?
I am. It's very weird. I find it very weird.
That's amazing.
No, last borns, I don't mind it.
Really?
They're probably also fighting to be seen sometimes.
Probably.
In the midst of everything.
Yes, probably.
Yeah.
So I was quite out there. I was quite loud. And then a time came where, again, my light got dim. And I went to an art school. And that's where the discovery of what unearthing my voice could possibly be. I was still figuring that out. A lot of people in art school thought I was an art major, because there were 4 majors. There was drama, dance, music, as well as art. A lot of people thought I was a art major because they're quite melancholic.
Yes.
And I was quite melancholic as well. There was a time where I was quite melancholic. But there was something about drama that pulled me out of my shell. And it allowed me to figure out the possibilities of what I could and could not do. And again, access to play, because in drama, there's quite a bit of playing.
Okay.
You know, spinning around, and you're just like, what are we doing here? But just doing that, just working on the physical voice, experiencing my body and being in tune with my body. A lot of us live just access to our head, and we ignore that our body exists.
Yes.
And that's where it was. So it was always there, but it was also nurtured through my studies. That's where it was nurtured in.
That's quite interesting, going to a creative school like this. Was that now in high school?
That was in high school.
Oh, wow, in high school already.
What led to that decision? Was it just your parents saying, let's try something different? Did you ask to go to a school that was structured so differently?
I negotiated to go.
Oh, wow.
Really?
I think, in primary primary school, I would do the drama, the extramural,
Yes.
and there were shows, and I still remember my first line in grade 1, and I would do the performances at school.
Okay.
And then they said I just asked. I can't fully remember, but they said I just asked to go. And they were
That's
quite
so
skeptical. They
interesting.
were just like, an art school, like, what do you mean? No, is there no maths? No. And I was like, no, there is maths. There is English. It's just that this one, instead of focusing on sports, which is what most schools,
okay.
what most schools will have, they
Yes.
focus on the art.
That's amazing.
And it was full time. It wasn't just one subject in art. I had 9 subjects in my 100%.
Wow.
I'm not even kidding. I had voice, I had body, I had poetry, and I'm speaking like, I had mythology, I had
Amazing.
arts administration. So it was a full curriculum plus the full curriculum at school.
Yes.
With the Englishes and the math, and I did pure maths, all that stuff.
Yes.
Business studies, geography, science, which nearly killed me, okay, and so I had to drop it.
Yeah.
And so it was a full scope. I had like a very busy and big calendar.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tell me something. How did you negotiate going to that type of school growing up in an environment of Soweto?
Yeah.
Because sometimes what I find is that you find that divide between children that go to the local schools and then those who go to schools that are in the outside of Soweto itself. There's sometimes labels that come along with that. How did you negotiate that phase of your life?
So when I went to, I'm trying to think back, I moved out of Soweto when I was 11.
Okay.
But I still experienced the
Yes.
label calling, right? So I
Yes.
was called a coconut.
Sure.
Because I didn't go to the schools in my area. And I had a coconut accent, they would say, which I think that's something to speak about, like accent privilege as well as accent prejudice, right?
Yes.
So it was tough, because even within the family you would find, and not my immediate family, but
wider
a wider family that, the coconut, you know. So that was quite hard. But I know when I was in primary school, I wasn't the only one who went to that school. So I
Yes.
had other family members that we went to the same school.
Yes.
In high school, I was in boarding school.
Okay.
Oh, you're in
So
boarding school?
I
Okay.
was in boarding school. I spent most of my time at school. I would go home Fridays, Saturdays I'm at home, Sunday I'm back at school.
Okay.
You know, and in the suburbs there weren't really a lot of people that I would play around with because I was never
Yes.
home.
Yes.
So I
So
grew
it cushioned
up,
a little bit,
Yeah, it
that
cushioned a
phase.
little bit, 100%.
Yeah.
But going to a creative school is rare. It is
It
rare in
is.
those times. Like, who goes to an art school?
Even now.
Even now.
It's still rare because I don't think we are all that open to embracing the creative
Yeah.
side. I think we're still very traditional in terms of our views of how to study and the paths in which our careers take.
Yeah, it really is hard. And looking back, I really am grateful to my parents because they are the type to say go for purpose
Oh, wow.
rather than in them instilling what I have to do. Like I didn't have to go do law.
Okay.
Did they worry? Absolutely. They did. They were just like, are you sure? You know, are you 100% sure? And when I was in art school and I looked at the industry in
Yes.
South Africa specifically, I then went and I did a BCom.
Okay.
Because I was just like, I don't know if this is going to be productive.
Yeah.
But God being God and purpose being purpose, I came back to the arts and I
Okay.
did arts in varsity as well.
Okay, so you added that in varsity as well. Okay.
Yeah, so if my BCom, I knew I remember I was in economics and that first lecture and I was like, I don't belong here.
Yeah.
And I knew, and not because I wasn't capable.
Yeah.
But because I just knew that I wasn't supposed to
heart.
be here 100%.
Yes.
And so I went and I did drama again. But that's where I got introduced to different facets of drama. In high school as well, because I was always quite intrigued about what the art can do besides what we're told it does.
Yes.
Right? So it's not just entertainment.
Yes.
There's more to it. There's the educational aspect. There's applied drama and theater and drama therapy, which is what I studied, and using art as a means for other things. So yeah, that's what pulled me.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. And I find that just so fascinating. Now, once you were able to move into the arts in university, how then did your career progress from there?
Thought I'd be a famous actress.
Really?
But because I knew that there was more to art than just the performance aspect of it, which I still go to auditions, you know, I still do voiceovers and things of the sort. But I was very intrigued by, okay, how else can I use this to make an impact?
Yes.
So I went into teaching. I was a high school teacher for quite a few years. I still locum at some high school high schools. And then I started noticing that I would have friends call. Friend, I've got an interview. I've got a radio interview. I've got this. Please, can you help me prepare? Because, friend, you're so confident. You just walk into a room and that's all that matters. You're not worried about what people think about you. And, I mean, I think I did, but at that time, I didn't see that that's how I was presenting myself, right? I was young. People that are young consider what people think about them.
Yes.
But I would help people and they would get job interviews and they would get the job.
Yeah.
And at family events, it'd be like, okay, you're the speaker of the family, you go. You speak, you know? And I noticed that I was like, okay,
Maybe
there's something here. You know, there's something here. But I remember this one moment. I was working for this company. They had invited me to come lead a team.
Okay.
It was for one of the big banks.
Okay.
And I had done my work with the team. We were amazing. I had to speak back to the work, right? And I stood there. Luckily, we were repitching internally. And I had to speak back to the work, say, these are the decisions that I've made. This is why I've made these decisions. And this is the impact that it's going to make for the broader community. And I fumbled.
Oh, really?
I know.
Goodness, this
Wow,
is the
that's
last
hectic,
thing I
yeah.
was expecting you to
Oh, I
say.
didn't see that coming.
I fumbled. My mouth got super dry.
Wow, look
my
at that.
goodness.
I had butterflies in my stomach.
Oh, no.
And I just remember looking at my boss and his client, internal client,
Yeah.
and the team that I was leading, and what was happening. The visceral experience that was going on didn't match who I was in the
Yes.
room for the people
Yes.
while I was working with them.
Yes.
And I remember my boss saying, just tell us what you did.
Yeah.
And I couldn't.
Oh, my
And he's like, what's going on? And I was like, I don't know.
Sure.
He's like, just talk me through what you did. Talk us through what you did. And I remember seeing them so hopeful, the team that I was leading, seeing them so hopeful for me. Because they were also confused. They were just like,
What's going on here?
What's going on? Because when we're working together, you've got ideas, you're very collaborative, you know? And that's when I knew that speaking, as much as I have the confidence to be on stage, but acting is very different from speaking to a crowd as yourself.
100%.
Right? Acting is a completely different thing, but speaking has its own skill. And it doesn't matter where you work, it doesn't matter where you are, it doesn't matter who you are, you need to know how to do it.
Yes.
Because your work can only go so far.
Yes.
You have to speak back to your work.
Yes.
Because companies trust you, right? They trust you to go ahead and speak for the company. You become the brand
Absolutely.
ambassador for the company.
Yes.
And if you're an entrepreneur, you need to speak back to your work.
You do.
You cannot, it's not good enough that you're good at what you do.
Yeah.
You have to speak back to it. People buy from confident people.
100%,
Absolutely.
Even if they're selling water.
Yeah.
But if you know how to sell this water and how it just will quench your thirst
Yeah.
and what it will do for you. It's not good enough to just say, oh, please, buy some water.
Yeah.
But why should I buy some water? And
Yes.
tell the story.
Yeah.
Tell the story of the water.
That's so true.
It's so important, and just understanding just how in terms of selling, whether it's yourself or a product, how infusing a story is actually so important to be able to get the other person to see the possibility of what is in front of them outside of just simple plain water. So then tell me, how then did you go about in terms of the entrepreneurial landscape? Because I know we spoke earlier that you've got clients as well that you assist, and tell me about that space and the work that you do there.
So how I work as I train, I have tailored coaching.
Okay.
And I tailor for individuals as well as groups and corporates.
Okay.
Because one thing that we need to realize is that speaking is a very personal thing.
It is.
It is a very personal thing, and it starts internally before it begins externally. So I'm very big on intrapersonal communication, which is how do you deal with your internal world? How are you speaking to yourself? What are you thinking? How are you imagining? You know, how are you perceiving yourself and the world around you?
Yes.
Because that influences how you show up in the room
100%.
and how you speak to people, right? I like to say that you have to say yes to these interviews,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Say yes to the speaking
I
opportunities.
love that you say that,
right?
yeah.
And a lot of time people will say no. They'll say no because they're not ready.
And that fear.
And that fear, but that fear cannot be so overpowering that you can't
Yes.
go speak about what you are doing.
100%.
So I've luckily found a lot of my clients off social media. I coach clients nationally and internationally.
Internationally as well.
Internationally as well. Yeah.
Dollar.
Euro, okay?
I love that. Multiple
Dollar and
currencies.
euro, okay?
Yeah.
And pounds, it's good.
Yes.
It's good because it just goes to show that it's not just South Africans that struggle with as public speaking, but it's an actual huge, it's a huge thing that people that struggle,
Yes,
you know, that are challenged by it. There are statistics that say that 96% of people struggle with glossophobia, which is, 96% are women.
Yes.
Yeah, that struggle with glossophobia.
What's
And then
glossophobia?
glossophobia is the fear of public speaking.
Really?
Yeah.
Sure. Hectic, hey?
It's very
That's a
hectic.
huge
Yeah.
that's a huge statistic.
And industries want you to speak.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, these days you have to speak with everything you,
You
do.
have to.
People often think that it has to be on a stage, but it's not just on a stage. It's when you enter the lift and there's another human being standing in the queue at ShopRite or wherever you buy your groceries. I mean, public speaking happens all the time.
And
So
100%.
it's incredible.
And we do it every day.
Yeah.
There is a
Literally.
misconception about it, like it has to be this huge
Yeah.
stage. But it's not. You can speak to one person, you can speak to
Yeah.
100 people, you can speak to
Yeah.
1,000 people, you can speak to a camera,
Yes.
right? On social media.
Yeah.
And that's public speaking.
Yes.
A lot of people are doing it without realizing.
Yeah.
And I believe in making you aware that you're doing it.
Yes.
And doing it really well and authentically.
Absolutely.
Right? You're not trying to be like somebody else. You're not trying to copy Hetty.
Yes.
Because you're not going to sound like her. Because your story is so different. You and I have such different backgrounds.
Yes.
And that influences the way that you speak
Absolutely.
and the way that you connect with your audiences. Yeah.
yeah.
Can you give me an example of, some client or maybe a client that's worked with you, like a good story, just you've worked with them for a little bit and, just want to highlight a specific type of client. You don't have to mention their name or
Yeah.
whatever, to give us an idea in terms of the type of work that you...
Sure. I have, I love using this one client. She is a woman, she's an entrepreneur, and she struggles to speak.
Really?
Yeah, like really badly, like really, really badly. And she was part of our group coaching,
Okay.
and it had been 2 sessions. So our group coaching will happen every Wednesday evenings.
Okay.
And she had, I think it had been 2 weeks after our sessions together, and she said that she asked a question. She was part of the audience, and she put her hand up to
Yeah.
ask a question.
Yeah.
She was very nervous,
Yeah.
but she asked the question. She actually
Yes.
did it, right? Then another time is, I think, like, it must have been at the end, because the coaching sessions are 9 weeks.
Yes.
It must have been week 10. She sends me this long message
Okay.
from a client of hers that she was asked to do a presentation or a workshop, I think. So there is in part of my coaching, I help you how to prepare effectively, because a lot of people,
that's
you'll get a
brilliant.
brief and then you'll immediately go to PowerPoint, and
Yes.
there are so many steps in
Before
between
that.
to understand. You don't
Yes.
just hear the brief and go.
Yeah.
And this long message from her client telling her how amazing she was.
Wow.
She was
That's
asked
beautiful.
she was asked the Friday, the presentation had to be the Monday. That's not a lot of
That's
time
not a lot of time,
Yes.
no.
to prepare. But she printed the workbook and she worked at it.
Wow.
And the client feedback, I wish I could read it right now, because she likes to say, please tell everybody, you know, but the client was so impressed with her authenticity,
Yes.
with her preparation as well.
Wow.
You know, and they were just like, we would love to have you again.
That's amazing.
And that is one
Very
of my,
heartwarming.
one of my proudest
Yeah.
moments. Yeah.
Please, as we begin to wrap up, please tell us about the importance of storytelling and embracing and owning our own stories. You know, with this platform of Monetize Your Business, we work predominantly with entrepreneurs based in the township. And sometimes when we come from the township, we don't think that our stories are worth telling, or that we even have a story to tell as entrepreneurs from the township. How do we embrace our story, own our story, so that we can grow and elevate our businesses?
Yeah, I love storytelling. I love that. And what's important is no one can have your story.
Yes.
Absolutely no one can have your story. Your story is like your fingerprint.
Yes.
And we all know that our fingerprint is very
Yes.
different from everybody else's. And so when we lean into our stories, when we lean into where we come from, when we lean into the knowledge that we have, there is a wisdom and a knowledge that you gain from being from a specific place. Right? From growing up within a specific household.
Yes.
There is a strength that a woman or a man that is born in a single household or raised in a single household that they have that I don't have.
Absolutely.
Right? So we need to tap into those talents.
Yep.
I call them gifts. I call it the
Yes.
gift of wisdom, the gift of knowledge, a gift of a talent and a skill.
Okay.
And our stories allow us to interact with other people because we all have different stories. My story might not resonate with someone from the township who has been there for 20 years of their lives. Mine has been there since I was 11, right? There is something that you have learned in your age 15, age 20 that I can't have.
Yes, yes.
And therefore I cannot relate to you, right?
Yes.
Even the way that we sell, right? This is about monetization.
Yes.
When you sell products, you're selling to people.
Yes.
That is the most important thing when you're pitching as well, right? The people that are watching and judging, you're pitching to people.
Yeah.
So how do I connect with them? And that's why my mission statement is helping African entrepreneurs and professionals speak confidently and connect authentically. And authenticity is that thing. Don't run
key.
away from where you come from.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Like you never need to run away. It might be that thing that pulls
Yes.
that big client away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It might be that I have another client. She is based in Ireland, and the reason she got the job that she got was because she is multilingual.
Oh, really?
Wow.
That was one of the biggest reasons.
Wow.
Yeah, she's multilingual.
And that's part of her story.
And that's part of her story.
That's
so if we run
beautiful.
away from, I can only speak isiZulu, perhaps your clientele are those people.
Yes, and that's what's needed.
And that's what's needed.
Yeah.
Perhaps I can only speak to this crowd. Perhaps I've got this accent, you know. And I mean, again, I don't know if we have time to speak about accent privilege and prejudice, rather. But your accent is the thing that will hook somebody. I remember this one time I was invited to come to a voiceover for a political party, and they were like, my sister, your accent is not right.
That's not going to
It's
be.
not what
It's
we're
not
looking
what
for.
we're looking for.
Yeah.
I lost the job from that.
Yeah.
But I also gained jobs from
Yes.
another
Yes.
thing. So it's knowing how to negotiate and knowing the audiences that you want to speak to, the audiences that you're selling to, so that you can make impact for them. We're all called to different audiences.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah.
Oh, cool. No, thanks for that. I mean, and I've gotten quite a lot of insight just in terms of, you know, the importance of our story, you know, our own unique story and the journey that it can move forward towards us, and just our ability to be able to tap into how to communicate more effectively, you know, with others and things like that as well. Perhaps what I could ask, maybe just in closing, I mean, you obviously deal with different types of people, like entrepreneurs, etc. What type of, you know, lasting message would you want to leave for an entrepreneur who's out there trying to grow their business? What type of message would you like to leave for them?
What would I like to say? I would like to say that you don't need to try to be like somebody else.
Yeah.
What you know and what you don't know, what you desire to know, is the thing that should drive you, you know? And it's okay not to know. It's okay not to know. Because it opens up doors for you to figure
Yes.
and discover.
Yes.
And what that does, again, it allows you to be authentic in the room. Don't be scared. As entrepreneurs, professionals, everybody in general tends to fear not knowing.
Yes.
And there's nothing to fear, because if you sit as a learner of life, you are more privileged than anybody who thinks that they are all knowing.
True.
No one can be all knowing besides God. You know.
Yes.
So yeah, don't be scared of not knowing.
Yeah.
Don't be scared of not knowing, and trust your story.
Wow, that's a beautiful message. I really love that. I've taken away so many nuggets and takeaways from this conversation. Papa Biz, why don't you share with us what your biggest takeaway has been from today's conversation?
You know, I'd never considered, like, from childhood, being put on such a different path like what you spoke about. I'm 40 years old. This is the first time I've heard of somebody going through an art school. And when, like, the type of family that I came up from, that wouldn't have been the norm. And I'd wonder, how would that end up and who would that be for? And it's just been so interesting to see how that's able to shape who you've become and how you're able to aid so specifically people who need your services, and not only local in terms of like a niche, but like international.
I'm shocked.
So you know, it's one thing that spoke to me in terms of just to, you know, consider ourselves, our upbringing, and the gifts that we're able to lean into, and who that can be able to impact. And you know, sometimes if we keep our gifts very close to us, we're not able to share it in the manner that it was actually intended for. And here you are. Hey, those dollars, we'll talk about that.
Oh, I absolutely love that. Bulelwa, please share with us if there's an entrepreneur watching and they're thinking to themselves, you know what, Bulelwa is exactly who I've been looking for. I'm looking for a public speaking coach. I'm looking for somebody to help me elevate my confidence with communication. I'm feeling a little bit stuck. I need to be a little bit more confident maybe in the boardroom or pitching to investors. And they would potentially like to be able to work with you, perhaps start off with a consultation with you. How do they go about following you and engaging with you?
Fantastic. You can contact us at info@yaap.co.za. You can follow me on my personal social page where I speak a lot about this, which is Bulelwa Speaks. This is on Instagram and on TikTok. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Fantastic. We will definitely tag that information down below within the description box. Today's conversation has been absolutely fascinating. I think for me, my biggest takeaway is the fact that we should embrace who we are and our authenticity in speaking, and the fact that absolutely all of us have a story to tell, no matter where we come from, no matter our circumstances and environment. So I'd really like to encourage all the entrepreneurs watching, contact Bulelwa and let's tap into our unique stories. Don't forget that we do have a workshop tour, so make sure that you visit www.monetizeyourbusiness.co.za. Follow us on all social media platforms. That is at Monetize Your Business, so that you can find out when we are next coming to a city and a township near you, where we talk all things monetization and doing all the things that are relevant to grow and scale your businesses. Let us know what resonated most with you from this conversation within the comment section down below. And until our next episode, it is bye-bye for now.
Cheers, guys.